on the Travel Magazine, we visit the city of Cuernavaca, Mexico, where we take an adventure ride over the rapids. Enjoy the beautiful gardens at Hosta Las Quintas. And tour the eclectic art collection at the Robert Brady Museum. And visit Hacienda San Gabriel to get a taste of old Mexico. I'm at one of the oldest churches in Mexico, the Cathedral de Cuernavaca. Hello, I'm Sandra Neal, and on this edition of the Travel Magazine, we'll be spending 3 glorious days experiencing the tranquility and the lush spring atmosphere of Cuernavaca. Cuernavaca is 90 kilometers south of Mexico City, and it's the capital of the state of Morelos. Called the City of Eternal Spring for its temperate climate, along with spas, rivers, and historic buildings, Cuernavaca has been a vacation retreat for centuries. Our first stop is Cuernavaca's main historical site. It's not found within the city, but 36 kilometers away. Built in 700 AD, Xochicalco replaced Mexico City's Teotihuacan in terms of importance. It was here where many Indian tribes met to trade and discuss the calendar, but it was abandoned by 900 AD. This ancient city was built on several hills that peak 200 meters above the valley below. What's interesting about the overall design is how the ground was reshaped around the buildings. This fusion of architecture and nature shows the affinity the builders felt with the land around them. As we walk around the grounds, we soon come upon Xochicalco's most impressive building. The Pyramid of the Plumed Serpent is distinctly decorated with carved hieroglyphics. 8 giant serpents cover most of its surface. More than just decoration, the carvings were integral to the workings of the Mesoamerican calendar.
In the west side of the pyramid, in front of this very nice body of the snake, this snake that's a little bit different of the one of Teotihuacan because he had human teeth, and also the fire, the top of the head, the wind with the barb, we have the shell that represents the waters, and the body itself that represents the ground. But the most important here is a change of calendar. The change of calendar that we can see here, we have what we call a glyph, that's a number of the calendar, and this is the new one, and we have the old one here. We have 2 hands of each side, one with a cord. The cord is pulling this number and change it for this one. We think it was in the year 743 after Christ.
Unfortunately, over time, parts of the pyramid have been worn down and destroyed. But enough of the structure still remains to enable some understanding of those who built it. The people of Xochicalco were amazing mathematicians, but they were also astronomers. They actually built an observatory in this cave that would determine their life cycle. Once inside, the priests would gather, and under pools of water, they could actually study the stars, the moon, and the planet Venus. During the day, the position of the sun would help them determine when to plant and when to harvest. Not only was the city important in the scientific and cultural development of Mexico, its design is an example of how a culture embraced their surroundings. More lush vegetation surrounds us on the way to our next destination. The sugarcane farmer, whose plow is pulled by horses, follows in the footsteps of his ancestors, tending to his fields without tractors or machinery. The farmers seem virtually untouched by the modern world, as does the community of San Gabriel. Half an hour from the Xochicalco ruins is an exquisite place by the name of Hacienda San Gabriel. It's the perfect stopover before we head whitewater rafting. The main building was constructed in 1529 by Gabriel Joaquin Yermo under the orders of Hernan Cortez. During its eventful history, the hacienda has served as a Franciscan monastery, then as a sugar plantation and refinery. During the War for Independence, it became the largest producer of sugar in Mexico. All this before becoming a luxury hotel. Here, history and tradition meet with all the modern necessities required for a relaxing stay. The Hacienda even has its own church. Built when San Gabriel was home to the Franciscans, the church is a beautifully crafted building, still being used for town weddings today. Thanks to the vision of its present owner, San Gabriel is now a luxury hotel.
It's incredible that this hacienda actually survived the centuries and the revolution.
Well, the last time that San Gabriel produced sugarcane, it was around 1914. And one of the reasons why San Gabriel is so intact and we're able to enjoy and to have the installations the way we do is because the story tells that Zapata's father used to work here. So Zapata, when he was a kid, he lived here and he had a special value for San Gabriel. So when he came during the revolutions through San Gabriel, he prohibited to his troops to destroy San Gabriel. So what they did, instead of destroying San Gabriel, the owner at that time had one of the best horse stables for purebreds. They had like 40 horses or so. And what they did is they sacrificed all the horses, but they didn't destroy San Gabriel.
This sad twist of fate managed to save the attractive grounds so that future generations could enjoy its lush serenity.
One of the most beautiful attractions from San Gabriel is the main room, and we have 4 rooms that connect to the main living room. We have a collection of different pieces of art from all over the world.
The art pieces displayed were collected during the hacienda's nearly 500-year history. In each of the rooms, you'll find examples of the hotel's impressive collection. Staying at the San Gabriel Las Palmas Hacienda felt as if I was experiencing my own piece of Mexico's rich history. Throughout the country's eventful and sometimes tragic past, this hacienda has remained, becoming one of Mexico's finest luxury hotels. When we come back, we take a bumpy ride down the river. It's whitewater rafting time. Then we'll visit Cuernavaca's historic cathedral. And take a look around the Robert Brady Museum.
More than 1,200 pieces in his collection. I'll take you on a tour of the Robert Brady Museum in Cuernavaca when the travel magazine returns.
Welcome back to the Travel Magazine and Day 2 in Cuernavaca, Mexico. This is a city of character and beauty, with serene, carefully maintained parks. Cuernavaca is also a city with a long history of visitors. Many who made the journey were so taken by its beauty, they decided to stay. Perhaps the most notable was Hernán Cortés, the famous Spanish conqueror. His former palace, constructed in 1530, is now the city's museum. But if you don't feel like walking around museums, outside of town, the river offers a different way to do some sightseeing.
I think this river is wonderful because it's time that the people doesn't have experience, don't need that experience. I tried any time to introduce to the people to make this kind of experience or this kind of sports, but without experience, but they can bring an experience in one day, and the river makes all the work for you.
Okay, Sandra, welcome to the Macusac River.
Thank you.
I will give you the jacket, okay? And when I need more very quick, okay, you need to put the picture in your bag. We give you 5 orders how to rafting.
The first one means adelante, is in front. Do it like this, and hand like this. Use your body. Do it. Okay, adelante, atrás, derecha atrás, izquierda atrás, y la quinta. Yeah, the five order is stop, alto. Vámonos de aquí.
That means let's go.
Octavio.
Once the quick lesson is done, it's right out onto the water. But they start me off easy in level 1 rapids. This exhilarating ride is definitely as much fun as it looks. Now, I'm sure the scenery around the river is gorgeous, but while in the raft, all I can see is a blur, and I don't want to miss any of the instructions.
I think I'm aliante'd out, but that was amazing. What do you think, guys? Ready for level 2?
Yeah!
Okay.
Finished with our experience on the river, we head back to the city. Once there, we can look forward to seeing one of Cuernavaca's most revered and historic buildings, this 16th century cathedral. The unadorned wood-carved crucifix hanging above the altar reflects the building's ambiance and heritage. Besides being an historic site, the cathedral is still fully functional. People come here to worship, as the monks did more than 400 years ago.
Ludovic, this convent behind the cathedral is now used as offices for the Bishop of the State, but what was its purpose back in the 16th century? We're looking down on the main floor.
Yeah, as you can see, there is 2 floors. The first floor was used for the common activities of the friars, such as eat or such as teaching people about Catholic origins, about Spanish, about whatever. And also it was used for the pilgrims, to welcome pilgrims. And we have the second floor. We have some rooms where they used to sleep, and also a library.
In a busy and modern Cuernavaca, this is still the center of the community and a place of immense faith.
We're surrounded by an open-air structure beside the cathedral. What was this used for?
It was called first the open-air chapel. It was used first by the friars because the native people were not allowed to enter, were very afraid to enter inside, because in the pre-Hispanic time, the temple was just reserved for the priest, and also they were not baptized. So the friars decided to build this open-air chapel and teach people from this very nice area.
The structure actually looks like a fortress.
That's a fortress, like symbols, you could say, of the fortress of the regions. It was not really to protect themselves, it was more like these symbols, and also to impress people, to make sure that the new religion is here and it's very secure religion and they can go here without fear.
From wherever you look in the city, the cathedral's single tower can be seen rising over the surrounding buildings. And within the cathedral is the Robert Brady Museum.
Robert Brady, an American artist and art collector, came to Mexico in the late 50s as a tourist and fell in love with Cuernavaca, and he just absolutely loved this house. He bought it in 1962. This was his home for 24 years. A large portion of this house was built in the 16th century. It was part of a monastery that was built around the Church of the Assumption. Church is now the cathedral. This was Mr. Brady's living room. We're in the old section of the house that was built in the 16th century. First of all, we have the star of the collection, which is a self-portrait of Frida Kahlo. Mr. Brady acquired this painting in 1965, before Frida was so important in the art world. It was was a very good friend of Josephine Baker, the American dancer and singer who was so famous for dancing with her banana skirt. She adopted 12 children of different nationalities. So on one side of the table we have Josephine Baker, on the other side an African fertility goddess. This guest room, called the Oriental Room, was designed by Brady in honor of Josephine Baker. Actually, she loved Oriental art, so we see this wonderful array of colors, combination of fabrics, Mexican bedspread, cushions from Morocco. Robert Brady loved colonial Mexican art, and of course most of the colonial art is religious. And he decided to display most of the pieces together on this one wall. We do have some exceptions to the colonial Mexican pieces. This one right here is from Italy. The one in the middle is from Nigeria, Africa. And the far left is the most valuable piece of religious art in the collection from Barcelona, Spain, 16th century. It's actually made out of 2 pieces of metal. Brady loved textiles. We see cushions throughout the house, and here in this cupboard we have what remains of his fabric collection. We're very fortunate that he left us such a wonderful reserve, because we do have to replace the cushions. They get a little weather-beaten in view of the fact that he only had 5 glass windows in the whole place. Everything else is wide open. In the guest sitting room, Brady had a lot of lithographs. We have lithographs by Rufino Tamayo. We have self-portrait of Diego Rivera, undoubtedly the ugliest painter in Mexico, but he knew it. He said he looked like a frog, but underneath he had a special charm because he had lots of girlfriends and female admirers. This was one of Brady's favorite corners of the house, the bar. All those colorful cushions that he liked, and masks. The masks are mostly from Mexico. Now, Brady loved natural light. He had candles everywhere in the house, and over a period of time they do quite a bit of damage. And if you look at the ceiling, you will see the only unpainted part of the house. During the restoration, the organizers felt it was better to leave it as he had it. The loggia is a new part of the house that Brady added on. This is where he concentrated a lot of his primitive art. We also have one of his tapestries. Brady would do the designs, he would dye the wool himself, and then he would take everything to a family that lived outside Mexico City, and they would weave them for him. In this room we do have some striking combinations of different cultures. The best combination in the house is this table from the grasslands in Cameroon, Africa, and the 3 doves on top of it are from the Huichol culture in Mexico. Robert Brady loved food, although he never did any cooking himself. He had a series of cooks in the years that he was here, but he decided to immortalize his favorite cook, Maria. Maria was originally from Oaxaca. There are people who can still remember coming to this house 30 years ago and enjoying Maria's food. In Mexico, there is a cooking saint. His name is San Pascual Bailon. And according to the tradition, if you have an image of the cooking saint directly over the cooking area, the cook will always be inspired.
The Brady House is the most personal museum I've ever seen. A generous gift left to the public, courtesy of Robert Brady. When we come back, I get this special treatment at the spa.
We'll be back with more of the Travel Magazine in Cuernavaca right after this, so stay with us.
Welcome back to the Travel Magazine in Cuernavaca, Mexico. After a busy 2 days of touring historical sites and whitewater rafting, it's time for a little peace and relaxation. And this is the place to find it, at the Hosta Las Quintas. From the meticulously maintained grounds to the spacious rooms, each distinctly different. Some are available with terraces facing the lovely gardens, which I found to be the perfect place to have my morning coffee. The old-world ambiance is maintained by the tile floors, wooden furniture, and a simple yet elegant layout. From the moment you enter the hotel, you feel enveloped in peace and luxury. Even if you only have the chance to stroll around the gardens, it's a great opportunity to enjoy a peaceful setting of flowers, trees, and some truly beautiful fountains.
For centuries, Cuernavaca has been enjoyed as a retreat, from Aztec rulers to Hernan Cortez to the French Emperor Maximilian. And now on our final day, I'm about to get the royal treatment.
Inside, away from the gardens, is another oasis, and my next stop, the hotel spa.
Orlando, your spa is so aesthetically beautiful, but what makes it unique?
What we've done at Hosta Las Quintas is to combine ecotourism and soft adventure with the spa experience. So not only do you come and get all of your treatments and relax and unwind, but we also offer the opportunity for our clients to go hike up a mountain to the top of a pyramid, swim down a beautiful spring-fed river, horseback ride in country lagoons and mountain settings, go to visit archaeological sites. So every day we have a different tour which helps you to experience nature, get to know our culture and our people, and get some exercise. We're going to start with a facial which uses all natural products. The purpose of the hydrating facial is to combat a little bit of the effects of the wind, of the sun, of the elements, of the lack of sleep sometimes. We're going to apply a face mask along with a serum that hydrates at a deeper cellular level so that you really are getting a facial from the inside out. From there we're going to do a fango therapy or a fango wrap with volcanic Mayan mud. The fango penetrates so it remineralizes your body at the same time that you're eliminating toxins. It's called thalassotherapy, which means therapy of the sea in Greek, and it was actually established by the Greeks many, many centuries ago. We call it a wet noodle treatment because you walk out like a wet noodle, totally relaxed. It's very, very good.
It's easy now to understand why this is such a popular spot for visitors. Every aspect of the hotel caters to relaxation and comfort. So if you need some special treatment, you know of a place to go in Cuernavaca.
Cuernavaca, what a fascinating city, from 16th century cathedrals to the Robert Brady Museum and, of course, the spa treatments. For the Travel Magazine, I'm Sandra Neal. Join us again as we travel the world.